Well, Phil, let me turn to you now. Can you give me a day in your life and how Isaac might help you?
Well, after we installed it, it was very early on to see how we would be able to use this. Very few, very quick rundown, just find the user. We really looked at how we could use that in the field. So our first level techs can take a smartphone. We all have iPads, so take an iPad in the field with them, be able to communicate with the switches or wherever they need to see the data from, and get that information right there in the field instead of, pushing that up to the second level of our network admins to be able to take a look and help out there. So we're very, very interested in that functionality right out of the gate, but there's a lot more I think we're going to add on to this moving forward.
How long did it take, Phil, to install Isaac?
It was really total from start to finish probably about 2 hours, and we were up and twittering and finding where people were on our network. We attached this to our wireless controllers first. We had a Enterasys engineer in there with our wireless system, and we decided to use that first. We're very excited about the way it's working though.
Excellent.
Well, Phil, I have to ask you, though, does it make you feel uneasy at all to trust such critical things to things like Facebook and Twitter?
I would say we're an early adopter, so I'm always on that little edge there. But I think that the security that we've seen with our Enterasys network has really settled me a lot. But I think Vala would probably answer that a little bit and add to that a little bit more.
I'd be glad to do that. So what you see here is the user interface of Isaac from an administrator point of view. And I'll be talking to the various components of the user interface. Again, Isaac is a social media interface to our network management suite. Our network management suite is an open standards-based network management, and this is simply an additive functionality that we have on our NMS. So if you look at the left side of the administrative view, you'll see that there are tabs that allow you to monitor and look at the analytics in terms of Twitter, Chatter, Facebook, and soon to be LinkedIn functionality. Now, the user tab on the right, here in terms of, let's say, a Facebook construct, you have your friend and you have your best friend. So some of the users are configured for read-only notification, while others have read-write capabilities and can actually modify the behavior of your social products. The icons there show you the different privileges that you have, and it is important that you configure your trusted user separate to how Twitter and Facebook and Chatter have defined your trusted users, and I'll get to that shortly. So as I mentioned, we're using Facebook and Twitter as a scratch pad, so none of the conversations that take place are permanent data store. We do erase the conversation based on a user-defined time frame, but as far as compliancy and auditing, all our customers want to make sure that they maintain historical information in terms of all the inbound, outbound social messages that communicate between the administrators and the machine. So we have an auditing function that looks at timestamping every inbound, outbound, and we use this auditing function for anomaly detection and signatures and IPS technology that enables us to make this a more robust solution. The next tab you see is the command tab. And here it's important to know not all commands are equal. There are certain commands that are more complex, more controlling of the infrastructure. Here you see access point reboot, for example, highly intrusive command. So what we would recommend for an administrator at Seton Hill or anywhere else, configure two-factor authentication when you're resetting a device or changing the behavior of the network. Here you see that you have that particular command set for enabled, administrator only, so your best friend, and two-factor authentication. Now, you can at a macro level enable two-factor for all of the commands, or you can select which commands you want to have tighter security. Remember, there is a balance of usability and security. So we want to make this simple, and we want to make this a more productive use of managing your network. The last system tab that I'd like to bring your attention to is, again, how you configure the media, social media of choice. You also look at the clear message command. It's set to 1 hour. So again, a scratch pad, no data at rest functionality. You have a pin lifetime. How long do you want this pin to be available to a user to issue a command? So that's also important. PIN delivery option, we would recommend SMS or registered email as a secondary source of two-factor authentication. Seton Hill decided to slowly roll out Isaac by bringing the wireless domain under this social enterprise construct. So you can do it by product, you can do it by domain. At some point you may decide that your data center or your distribution part of your network, core of your network, will never participate in the social media channel, and that's an option you have. It's also important to look at the account mismatch. Notice we've configured the users here in Isaac. So it's a profile-based, count-based correlation to what Twitter and Facebook is reporting to what you have as a trusted user. And if there's any mismatch in terms of number of users or the credentials, we will disable the Isaac functionality. And what I mean by disabling Isaac functionality is that you're back to your traditional network management capability. So again, think of this as orthogonal and an additive capability that we deliver. We also have rate limiting, and again, if we see failed PIN authentications that fail over n number of times, we'll disable Isaac. If you see rate limits that exceeds, you can disable Isaac. So again, all of this multi-layered configurable security that is outside of the social cloud, outside of the hardware that you're controlling, and that we believe is the security and hardening that's required to introduce and invite machines to the social enterprise.